International diplomacy is very difficult. What I'd say about the Russian-Ukraine problem is, if one side is absolutely determined to win at any cost, we're not going to settle this situation easily. We've got to find a compromise. We have to find a middle ground. I think right now they don't think they can get an agreement with Putin. I think if they thought they could, they would do it. You know, it's been an interesting, because of course you see how Finland and Sweden are reacting to this situation. I mean, I think everybody is very nervous in that part of the world at this point. You have to admire the leadership of the Ukrainian president. You have to admire his leadership. I think under tremendous pressure, he has done a marvelous job of rallying his country to the challenge. And now we just have to find a solution, an end game to this, to bring us to peace. I mean, in the past, when these kinds of conflicts have been brought to successful conclusion, there's generally been a third party who helps bring everybody to the table and says, okay, let's get this settled. We can't continue this. So finding that third party is going to be the key. I think a war would be an incredible tragedy, right? And I think you don't want to resort to that. This is a topic that's almost as hard as Russia and Ukraine. And I think given the experience with Hong Kong, it's got to make everybody a little nervous about. But at some point, obviously, it's something has to happen to get the two together. I mean, if you look at the reunification of Germany, there's a great success story, tremendous success story. And at the time they remerged, the difference in GDP and per capita GDP was almost a factor of 5. So there was tremendous difference. And yet they managed to make it work despite that difference. So there's a model that really could work well. And what we have to do is think about whether it's Taiwan and China or it's North Korea and South Korea. We have to think about how do we find something like that works. I think young people starting things, entrepreneurial things, has always been one of the most important ways in which technology advances. And I think that continues to be true today. I think the one thing that's still true is the quality of the initial discovery or invention is still key to determining the long-term impact of any new company, any entrepreneurial activity. Today, it's probably easier to get capital. It's easier to get investments than it's ever been. But it's also the case that the expectations are quite high. So people are looking to build companies which are very large companies, and there's more competition. There are 5, 10 companies really converging around the same concept. And that means you've got to be fast, you've got to have the right product. You really have to think through what is your competitive advantage as a team and as a technology company? But I think it's never been more exciting than it is now to think about new technology companies and their role in the world. And becoming an entrepreneur was a wonderful experience. Yeah, I think the development of young leadership, the best ways to develop leadership is a combination of educational techniques. There's reading, of course, and as I said in Leading Matters, I like to study people who've been in very tough leadership situations to understand how they responded and how they worked on them, because I think that's a valuable insight. Everybody faces this set of problems that is somewhat different, but I can learn how somebody dealt with a very complex issue and perhaps take some lessons from it. There's also experiential learning, though. I think the development of leadership happens partly by experiences and by creating and providing yourself with a set of experiences where you have to face challenges and you have to overcome them to be successful. Reading is a joy. I love it, and I've loved it since I was a little 5 years old or 6 years old when I started reading. And one of the characteristics I have is I am a very curious person. So I like to learn new things and experience new things and think about new things to read about and understand and grapple with. And sometimes it'll be a book on science. Sometimes it'll be a book on human history. Sometimes it'll be a book on somebody who's in a leadership position and how they dealt with difficult things. And I find that process, it's an opportunity to grow and to learn and gain insight. And I think that's incredibly valuable.